Hi, welcome to Fem Stories, and my name is Anjali. So, have you heard about a David and Goliath story? Why am I saying that? I think in the Indian ecosystem of startups at this point in time, we are into that storyline. We are having so many Davids right now. They are playing with their slingshot with no armors and no army, but they are becoming the future kings. And talk about the Goliaths. I think they are getting a little bit scared. I was just reading the stories, and we have the founders in the studio today to talk about this in terms of how they are, the bigger wizards, thousands of crores empires. They are getting scared because they know somewhere these little Davids, they're creating something really significant. There are products coming out, there are services coming out, they're actually very significant and actually solving the problems of today's needs. They're hitting the ground running, and who knows, within time, all these Davids will become Goliath for tomorrow's. So I really wanted to share this storyline in the beginning because we have trailblazers today in the studios. They are targeting the women's health as the topic, and they have created a very significant piece of product and a service that they're going to talk about today in terms of how they are making these shifts, how they are making the change that needs to be brought in India, especially in women's health. Today, we have a very special guest. She's only 29. She's a youth icon. Her name is Carina Kohli. Welcome, Carina.
Thank you.
She is amazing, to say the least. What I have learned personally so far interacting with her is she is someone who tries to dig deeper and tries to find the solution of a problem. I mean, she was just 13 and she discovered that she had PCOS. Not easy to discover that. So we'll find out more from her in terms of how she actually found out that she really had that symptoms, in terms of the whole discovery. And then that led her to build her own company called Humm Care at the age of 25. And, it's been 4 years since that she's been working in that company. And today she's here to share all her story and the entire journey with us. So, welcome, Karina. This was your introduction. I hope I did not miss anything. So, over to you. Please let me know. I'm just curious to know in terms of how did you identify PCOS when you were just 13? My daughter is like almost 9,
Mm.
but that's a very young age to even identify stuff like that. So tell me, how did you identify that?
First off, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here and part of the Fem Stories series. To answer your question, PCOS does set on really early in women during adolescence, when you hit puberty. For me, it was definitely a challenge. I think it was more the symptoms that stood out for me.
Yes.
Hormonal imbalances, bodily changes. As a 13, 14, 15-year-old girl, of course, you go through so many changes,
Yeah.
right? A teenager goes through so many changes when they're in school. But for me, I just saw all of these significant symptoms. And to be honest, I think now 16 years ago, PCOS wasn't as openly talked about. It wasn't as common as it is now.
Yeah.
One in three women have it now. But back then, no one really even knew what it was. So
Yes.
I remember we went to, a dermatologist and you start with topical issues. And you think that, okay, it could be acne, it's because you're a teenager. You think all of these things. Then you realize that you have more symptoms like hirsutism, for example, weight gain,
Yeah.
sleep issues, hair fall. And that's when you think that there's something underlying. And I remember my parents are the most supportive people, and they were very much by my side and took me to see different specialists. And
Yeah.
finally, we found the right endocrinologist, went to the right OBGYN, and understood that it was this lifestyle disorder called PCOS, which is actually very common globally, but it's just more challenging to discover because a lot of people are not looking for it or they weren't back then. So we did definitely have a runaround, took a lot of wrong, whether it was getting wrong prescriptions from doctors, a
Hmm.
wrong diagnosis, but 2 years into that discovery journey, we found out. And I do remember that that feeling of loneliness or insecurity that I had was a feeling I never wanted any other girl or woman to have. And that feeling stuck with me all these years, which is why I'm now building and trying to do something
Got
in
it.
this.
I mean, that's really good. I mean, for me, I need to educate myself. For me, for PCOS is polycystic ovary syndrome,
Correct.
which is actually when you develop that part of your body, and which is obviously the cutoff from a teenager to the puberty ages, and that's when you get those
Correct.
hormones develop and everything. So what were the key symptoms besides being lonely and depressed, which is probably the onset of your period time, which is the onset of the girls when they are getting into puberty age? What are the symptoms that made you feel that this is something not natural?
No, so I actually lonely and depressed were not at all symptoms. I've never been a lonely person because I'm naturally I love
People's person,
people.
yes. I can
Also
see that, I can tell.
also depression is just not a term I like to use lightly because it's such a serious thing. So I want to be mindful about using that term. But there are a lot of physiological things. So even when you look at it, things like rheumatism, different parts of acne on your body, irregular menstruation, hair fall, weight gain in different ways, fatigue, sleep issues, all of these are symptoms. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm simply speaking from personal experience
Yeah,
that I have managed over a decade. But I think you can definitely, look it up and speak to a specialist
got
if
it.
you feel that something is not natural to you.
Perfect. So I think the learning for us is if you are looking for these, or if you're actually experiencing these symptoms, maybe you can actually read more on it, get to a
Yeah.
specialist, and identify if there is a symptom of PCOS with you, and precisely why I asked her the question in terms of what was the overall journey and of identification, where how you landed up to identifying that you have PCOS. So with that said, I mean, Humm Care, right? Now we want to know more about how did you find Humm Care? What was the genesis of the idea?
Mm.
And what was the journey like in terms of I mean, think about your challenges, or what were the challenges and the success stories eventually that you had?
Um, so Hum Care started with a different name in 2020. Our beta version was called Baby Space back in the day.
Hmm.
For me, there were, of course, a few reasons why I set out with this mission
Yeah.
of wanting to build a company that focuses on women's health and healthcare for people.
Hmm.
Um, of course, my own struggles were a big personal factor that got me very committed to the cause. But I studied in Scotland. I understood a little bit about the NHS system. I understood and I researched a lot of the other healthcare systems globally.
Hmm.
What I actually came back to and what I understood a little bit more about the Indian system was that there is still a huge lack of access, lack of affordability. There's a lot of stigma when it comes to getting help, asking for help,
Especially for women health,
especially for women health, mental health,
mental health,
yeah,
yes.
different aspects of also reproductive care,
Yeah.
because all of these sensitive but extremely important aspects of our
Topics.
healthcare are usually so stigmatized,
Sure.
and not only in India, this is globally,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
for
I mean,
us,
healthcare in US is a huge issue.
yeah,
And I mean, there have been three presidents out there. I mean, they've tried their best, but still, healthcare is a huge issue.
mm,
I personally feel Indian healthcare is a better version because you can actually walk up to the doctor.
yes,
If you are right now, feeling symptoms and feeling feverish, you can actually walk up to the doctor.
yes,
He can give you the medicines on the spot. You come back home, you take those medicine, you feel better. So
yeah,
you actually are able
mm,
to cure or at least help yourself if you want to in the next 3 to 4 hours of identifying the symptoms. That's how it is in
yes,
India,
and
which is
it's not
amazing.
like that in the
It is
West.
not like that
Yeah.
in US because if you are under the huge, the headache or any pain,
Mm,
there is a whole process that you have to go through before even you can see the doctor,
yeah,
let alone having the right medicine, let alone
absolutely.
getting to the drugstore and get the medicine and then get the drug work on you and get better. Longer cycle, more processes, and of course, costly as well. So Talk to me in terms of how you learned, what you learned from UK and Scotland on healthcare system and how better or worse it is in India, and how that inspired your home care journey.
Um, so to be honest, to add to what you said, our doctors and our medical care is spectacular in our
Yes.
country.
Yes.
That I probably think we have the best in the world. Also to compare, I'm not going to compare different healthcare systems, but what my takeaway was is that we have very different barriers when it comes to healthcare, right? India has many cultures. Our population is one of the largest in the world. And we also have different things like geographical barriers,
Hmm.
right? There is this entire issue of access to
Yeah.
healthcare based on where you live, your socioeconomic background, your gender, where you come from, whether you live in a tier three city and you don't have access to, let's say, an IVF clinic, or an endocrinologist or a specialist. So, for me, a big aspect that I wanted to solve for and also learn more about was the lack of access and how we can kind of find ways to bridge that gap.
Hmm.
Gender is also a big thing. Women are, not as prioritized as men, and we haven't been for decades. Research studies, medical
That's like
studies,
the mindset which is hard to break.
it's a mindset, and it's just built historically, right? Most medical studies were conducted according to men versus women. So a big thing for me, having experienced what I had when it came to my own health, was I wanted to find ways to empower women, make sure women have access to all kinds of care, specifically when it comes to reproductive care, hormone health, maternity.
Yeah.
And also finding a way to empower women to also put their career on an equal plane,
Yeah.
right? A lot of domestic responsibilities, of course, maternal
Hmm.
responsibilities, because women are producing the child.
True.
Um, was how can we ensure women don't have to deprioritize their career? Because historically, and what research has shown is that 73% of women in India quit the workforce by the age of 30 to have a child.
And that's where you actually figure out what you have to do,
Exactly.
because
That's
you
when
but
you're
that's where
just
your education
starting.
ends, and that you kind of just figuring it out process or space or mind space where you really want to know, is this really it, or you want to really switch gears in the
Yeah,
corporates or by yourself. And that's when they quit, which means we are
absolutely.
getting the brain drain within the country, because I believe the reason of fem stories is that we have fabulous talented women in our country,
Yes.
but due to so many factors, not just one but so many factors, they are unable to come on the table and talk it out. They're unable to come to the reach the table, get that money. They're unable to get to the table and seize that opportunity. They're unable to get that to the table and make it big. How
Mhm.
many can do it? Even if there are 100 women or 1,000 women with that talent, with that gist, with that voice, how many of them can actually make it?
Yeah.
So that is one of the mission of M Stories as well, to create that voice, to create that impact. So we can inspire many women. Even if this can inspire one woman, that the job is done.
Yeah.
So I love how you put it in terms of, and how you envision the women's space, especially from the health perspective, and how you
Yeah.
really encourage them to, take up their careers and deal with their mental health, deal with their physical health. Oh, do you have a story to tell us in terms of, you mentioned you did a lot of research, like you had focus groups,
Yeah.
you interviewed control group, which is humongous, which is a huge, part of any entrepreneurship journey,
Yeah.
because you kind of meet the reality during those research phases. I believe it in that. What was one of the key story, or anything that really struck you and that touched you and you would like to share with us? I think sometimes such such moments that we see, observe, and it stay with us in the research. And I think I would love to know if that is something that you can
Yeah, absolutely. So,
recall.
before we launched the beta version of Hum, I spoke to about, I would say, 1,000 women,
Yeah.
and couples to understand their healthcare journey, their journey when it came to family building, pregnancy, women's health issues. And something that really stood out based on our focus groups and the study we conducted was postpartum.
Hmm.
Postpartum is actually known as the fourth trimester.
Yes.
However, it is the most neglected stage of
Yeah.
the family building journey globally. Um, to be honest, postpartum is meant to be and known to be more challenging than the pregnancy itself.
Yeah.
And a lot of women and a lot of couples actually came forth and talked about their struggles after the delivery, right? What happens when the baby comes home? Postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, psychosis, breastfeeding struggles. How do you recover after your C section delivery? How are you prepping your body to your new
Hmm.
normal and preparing to go back to office after maternity leave?
Hmm.
What are your employees and what are the companies doing to make that experience and that transition completely smooth for you?
Yeah.
How is your employer supporting you?
Yeah.
And that was something that stood out, which is why we actually launched Hum first with a
Hmm.
focus in pregnancy and postpartum.
Gotcha.
Now, over the last 3 years, we have expanded to employee benefits as a whole, continuum care, so women's health programs, menopause care, men's health programs based on popular demand from our companies, mental health programs, family building, and then we go deeper, right?
Hmm.
We want this to be inclusive for everyone. So single parenthood, PWD,
Hmm.
same-sex couples,
Hmm.
really finding a way to make everyone and anyone's
Part of it.
journey
Yeah.
feel included in this.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. Any one particular instant that really touched you in your research?
That touched me. I feel like it's hard to choose one. I'd probably say every single person we helped through the beta version. So back then we had this web application, which was a beta version, which was essentially a community of verified information and experts
Hmm.
supporting you. So during the pandemic, that was when we were actively supporting new parents after delivery with things like questions about breastfeeding and the vaccine, questions about, how do you get in touch with an expert? There were
Hmm.
couples struggling with getting in touch with Cara for adoption.
Hmm.
So a lot of these things came up, and I'm happy to say we were able to, help a lot of parents during
That's
that
very
time.
nice.
And
That's really
that's
nice.
something that's very dear to my heart as an
Nice.
experience.
So, so just to close out that question, you did have a research or research group of at least 1,000 women, and you pretty much worked with individual women to find out
Of
their
course, yeah.
journey and their health issues.
So
Um,
just to actually jump in here, so that was our first study.
okay.
We did another study of about 640 working parents in
Yeah.
India, and that was super insightful as well, and really helped us create the foundation of our employee benefit programs,
Hmm.
which we understood what working parents need when it comes to their health, what working people need when it
Yeah.
comes to their health when they're planning out their career and their life.
Hmm.
And that's how we actually grew and built out the rest of our programs as well.
Gotcha. So, are you working with the corporates? You're working
Yes,
with
we're
the
B2B first fully.
And what's your target audience in terms of or target customers in terms of who you're targeting, corporates and schools? Like what exactly is the
So we
gamut look
aren't
like?
at schools yet. Currently, all of our users on our platform have to be over the age of 18.
Over.
Um, but currently we are a B2B first company where
Okay.
we provide benefits to employers and
Yeah.
employees.
Hmm.
Our target group is again over the age of 18 to I would say roughly close to 50 is,
Okay.
and we have programs for everyone now.
Okay. Because if it starts from 18, the
Mhm.
PCOS starts very early, as
Yes,
yes, you had experienced, and also the menopause starts around 45, 50ish.
about 42, 43. Yes.
Yeah. So how about the left out
No, so to
age
be
groups?
honest, I think for us, when we go B2C first is when we will look at PCOS via schools and younger, teenagers in PCOS. Currently, just due to specific sensitive issues, we do have to maintain adults on our platform,
Mhm.
specifically with the sensitivity of issues. However, if it's a parent and a child, they're more than welcome to have a joint account and join a PCOS program. Um, I don't mean that we cut off at 50. I just meant our most popular programs are between that
Gotcha.
time. So
Okay.
100%, every
You
single
do
person,
have the room for,
we
the
have
entire age
we have
group
room for everyone.
struggling with the women health issues,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you are still growing, right? You must be looking for funding, you must be looking for more investments, you must be looking for more resources to add your program. So I'm sure you're researching a lot on funding, especially. What do you think is the process that people, especially women who are actually
Mhm.
researching and they really need more funds. They really need to find the investors. They don't know how to find the investors, where to go for maybe deeper pockets or maybe, zero equity sort of investments. Walk me through uh, a path or a process that you probably will research eventually to get the funding for Humm Care.
So on the funding front, we do have some news, which I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but in time we will disclose.
Sure.
In terms of the journey or the path to get funding, I would say there are different ways and different kind of resources available. So number one, we should definitely look at grants, especially when you do have something with a social mission. There
Yeah.
are grants for
Like what?
everything,
Uh-huh.
whether it's climate, whether it's something for women,
Yeah.
whether it's something focused on healthcare. There are different government grants available.
There are. Okay.
Yes.
Can you give us an example? Like what kind of grants are available?
I don't have the name of a government grant, but you will have to look at the website. There are actually many
There's,
available.
I heard about one Goldman Sachs 10,000
10,000 women?
women sort of
Yes.
a grant, which is very famous, and they
That's
kind
not
of
actually a grant, though.
really it's not because I
No.
actually invited one of the CEOs, and she got funded by Goldman Sachs to
Mhm.
actually get an entrepreneurship course in IM Bangalore.
Yes. So they help with courses. I have actually seen that program as part of one of their earlier cohorts, not in the fundraise, but at their accelerator side of it.
Mhm.
So I would say grants are definitely one resource. Second, accelerators, incubators,
Excellent.
definitely a plus, especially at an early stage. We were a part of different ones early in the day, and I I would say really, really helped me with the community side of things.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is hard and it's lonely. And I think when it's your first time, you're kind of just in the deep sea and you have no idea. Um,
Entrepreneurship is lonely
yeah,
and it's
entrepreneurship is
hard. It's
lonely.
not sexy and glamorous as I think you told me. And I think who told her that it's glamorous? It's not.
No,
It's the toughest muscle to crack because you don't know anything. You're doing pretty much everything by yourself. I saw this very funny video yesterday on Startup News. I guess it's one of the feed that I see every morning, and there was this guy who was clapping by herself with the entire zeal and enthusiasm just by himself
yeah,
because he has to get that energy in the morning because he do all these chores all day,
yeah,
and he himself called an entrepreneur. So
yeah,
so it's not glamorous. It's actually more, it's the flip side. It's the opposite. You
yeah,
really have to inject energy in yourself
yeah.
because you have to do so much work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times media and like what you read online or what you read when you're scrolling through LinkedIn are essentially success stories, right? Like 98% of them are people's stories saying
Yeah,
and
it just
telling you
adds
how they
fun
made
to it.
it.
It adds fun to it, but then
Yeah,
yeah, it's just a success. It's
yeah,
actually the truth
yeah,
that they kind of portray in a fun way.
yeah. And it's definitely, I would say it's definitely lonely and you just need some guidance, right? When it's your
Yes.
first time. So for that, accelerators, incubators help a lot.
Hmm.
Finding startup communities help a lot. There are also women specific funds now
Yes.
that are looking to invest in women founded startups or startups which have at least one women co-founder.
Yeah.
That's a great resource for women founders and then, of course, early stage startups.
Hmm.
But just a caveat to that, you know, you kind of you have to go in with the mindset of knowing you're going to hear a lot of no's and you are going to hear a lot of just rejection. But
Rejections.
you have to kind of keep going. You have to believe in what you're
Yeah.
doing. And if it makes sense to you, if the numbers make sense to you, if you're driven by the goal, you kind of
Yeah.
have to just
Yeah.
push.
That's the most important thing. I would like to echo that. You have to
Yeah,
believe in your goal if you believe in yourself. And there will be roadblocks on the way. You
of
just have
course.
to be more, perseverant, and you will need to be really hardworking and just, push those blocks away and not stop because of them.
Absolutely.
You have to believe actually harder in yourself and in your goal and keep moving. That's an amazing thing. So grants, accelerator, incubators, women specific funds, and of course, finding your own tribe,
Mm,
finding the right set of people to high vibe with to make sure that they give you encouragement and to get to that finish line. I think it's very important for all the women founders like Karina, if she has the news, I'm sure she has the good news. She'd like to share this later when she's comfortable and she has the access. So I think that's the way for us to get to the funding finish line, which is
mm,
what she said. And I think it's very important for all the entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, to really understand how they can launch their idea, they can establish it, but then make it big. You really need more investment, you really need more um, guidance.
mm.
You really need more people around you to support you. So for that, you need to find the right set of access and resources, which you just mentioned. Um, Amazing. I would love to dig a little deeper, a double click on in terms of what you have learned in these 4 years, what kind of challenges.
Okay.
If you can just cherry pick one challenge that you would like to share and what you learned from it, if it changed you
Mm.
for good forever, and if you would like to share with the viewers in terms of if they face a similar challenge, what would they would do, or what you have done? I would love to just wrap our head around that.
I would say one of the things I learned, and this is actually my favorite, just tidbit that I love to share about
Yeah.
my journey, is just how underestimated the compounding effect of consistency is.
Yes.
And to me, that's been my biggest learning in the last 4 years, I would say. No road is clear and straightforward in
Yes.
entrepreneurship. So I think
I
when
think
you
it's not
start
it's not clear anywhere.
ever,
I mean,
ever,
entrepreneurship is a
yeah,
new cool word that we're using in India, but
yeah,
there is no road, there's no clear road anywhere,
anywhere,
including the childhood, including the parenthood, including the marriage, including the, upbringing your kids, including the school.
absolutely.
Entrepreneurship is no different. There is no clear roads anywhere. I think what
Mm,
matters is how you pave your way.
yeah,
What you do with it is more important. How you respond to that.
exactly. It's how you respond, it's how you find your way, right? And for me, my biggest learning has been you have to stay consistent and you have to keep doing and keep going. And entrepreneurship out of 365 days is probably like 335 days that you have to tell yourself, being like, here's why I'm doing this, keep going. And the other days might be the days where you're
Yes.
having an up, in the last
Yes.
30 days in the year.
I know.
But the rest of the days, you kind of have to keep going and remind yourself that it's brick by brick that you're doing this, right?
Yes.
Rome wasn't built in a day. You kind of have to understand that it's a long journey. Success does not happen overnight.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes is be the 10-year overnight success. You want to build something that really lasts, that
Yeah.
makes
And
a
everything,
difference.
exactly. And anything good actually takes a lot of time. If you
Absolutely.
want to create something quality and good, it takes time to get there. And it takes its own share of struggles as well, not just time, but so you have to pave your way. Also, I think it depends on what your attitude is because you change.
Yeah.
Imagine when you were 25 and you started Humm Care
Yeah.
with with the old name, and the person you are today. You evolved. I
You've
would
grown
rather
up.
use the word transformed or evolved, not changed. But you evolved as a person as well. So it's not just the company you are building. You're
Yeah.
actually investing in yourself. You're
Absolutely.
investing in your future. You're investing in your personality and who you become as a product of all those 4 years.
Yeah.
So it is all the more important to be consistent. Just
Yeah.
to recap what you mentioned. Amazing learnings. I have a very good story and fun story of, again, I'm very left brain, so I probably shared the quants and the stats. We have 60 lakh crore spent in India on the food,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
So, what is your take on it?
I mean, I think education is the most important thing
Yeah,
in the world. I think equally educating family members, children. I also think you're never too old to study.
yeah,
So for me, I'm a big believer of,
yeah,
going back when you're ready.
yeah.
So I think education is the most essential requirement
Hmm.
on taking on life
Yeah,
and whatever that is, whether public school, whether you're studying in India, whether you're doing courses on the side of working,
yeah,
never stop learning because I think the more you upskill yourself, the
yeah,
better your experience of your day to day life will be.
yeah.
And there will be a skill that benefits you
True.
in something,
Absolutely.
especially your career. So, to me, and you're never, never too late to go back to school. So,
Yeah,
executive programs, courses on the side, if there was something you wanted to do, but you couldn't because you had to jump into work at a certain point in your life
yeah,
or, support your family with something.
yeah.
And now you might have some time to take on a course or study, go for it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, education is more important in terms of also, I think, making the right decisions because
Mm-hmm.
you are equipped with that knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and you are in yourself, and you also have those right resources, tools, and also the ability to reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know anything, doesn't matter. You learn it.
Yeah.
You learn on the go. I mean, when you start the entrepreneurship, I've met so many people. As I just read Ghazal's message this morning on Instagram. She started this journey of Mama, which is like about 5,000 crore at this point in time. She did not know any skill. She learned on
Mm,
the go. She learned every single skill and she actually built this. Of course, she had partners, she had other people
remarkable.
to help her, but then so education and learning is such an important part of
Mm,
entrepreneurship because nobody knows everything and every day. You need to
mm,
learn, ability to learn and move on is the fundamental part to be able to reach to a goal.
yeah.
So that's amazing. I would love to understand a couple of other pointers from you. I'm sure you've met several women on your journey, Karina. So, what is your leadership advice for all the aspiring women entrepreneurs who might have ideas sitting on a couch, scratching their heads, and watching the reels, scrolling the YouTube, and they're trying to identify and learn in terms of how to start? They're like, what to do, where to start, what do I do, where to educate myself. There's so many,
Mm,
because once you start, you figure out, oh my God, there's so many people doing the same thing.
yeah.
So, but they do have the right ideas, they do have the right talent, they do have the right gist and, the ability to do it. It's just that they say that the hardest part is to show up
Mm,
and then the rest follows. So, what is your advice based on your 4 years of experience that they will just jump out of that couch and get started? You know?
mm, my advice from my experience would be the time will never be right or
Uh,
perfect.
hmm.
So don't wait for that day being like, I'll do this when. And I think a lot of times when we have these things we want to do or try,
You kind of think in your
yeah,
mind, oh, this is not the right
yeah,
time.
I'll do it then.
I'll do it then.
I'll do it when this happens. Or, when this happens, then I'll try. And I think something to just know is the time is never going to be right or perfect. The time is now.
The time is now.
And you just
Yeah.
have to do it. You have to try. And the worst that's going to happen is you might not succeed the first time. And
Yeah.
honestly, no one does. And there's no big deal as long as you get up and you try again. So
Exactly.
don't wait for the right day. The right day is
Fantastic.
today.
You actually just gave answer to one of my, I'll do it then.
Do
One
it
of my
now.
private space, and I'm thinking, I'll do that then, but then you just gave answer. Do it now. The time is right now.
Do it now.
Awesome. So thanks, Karina. This was an insightful discussion. I'm so glad. I learned so much, and I'm sure our viewers as well learned something from the journey that you just shared with us. I would just touch base on one topic, which actually inculcates a couple of topics, but I'll just say in a very
Mm,
high level, like a gender disparity
mm,
in India, also like women receiving lesser funding as opposed to their counterparts, as opposed to men.
mm.
And did you experience that? in the reality. I'm sure you are in the process of requesting funding, or you would be doing eventually in the future, but I'm sure there's a process of learning as well going on. So, what is your experience on the field?
Um, I would say any woman who's trying to raise money and building a startup has experienced that at some
Oh,
point.
it's true then?
I think it is true, but I think it depends on who you're meeting with and talking to, because I don't think everyone's intentions to be discriminative are the same.
Yeah.
So I
I
think
think things are also changing.
they're changing a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, to be very honest, we've made a lot of progress
Yeah.
just in the last few years.
Few years.
There,
So good to know.
yeah, and like we talked about, there are now grants, there are funds just for women. There are people looking to fund women first companies as well, which is really promising and something that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Um, but of course, the struggle is real, right? When we do look at the numbers, male-led startups are more funded than
Yeah. And less
women-led,
than
just in the
1%.
numbers,
It's a
right?
astounding number. Like, why
Yes.
is that, do you think, is the struggle?
I don't know why that is, because if I was the decision maker, that would not be happening. But I think I think it's just historically.
Is
I,
it a merit to it? Is it happening because it's the right thing to do? Like, I
I
want to be
don't know.
fair with
I
it.
I
I
don't
just don't
know
know because
how.
I've not been into that shoe yet. But I would love to know from somebody who has done it.
No, I mean, I don't know why that would be a right thing to do, or I don't see why that would be, but I do think that it has happened. But see, I'm not a VC myself, and I'm not an investor myself. So it's hard for me to explain their point of view or their shoes. But
Yeah.
what I can say is that we do have a lot of supporters now, and we have a lot of women paving the way. There are a lot of women I look up to. There are a lot of resources for women now.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of heads of funds and firms looking to also support more women and
Yeah.
change the narrative
Yes.
and
Yes.
change the game.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of the conversation is about how women founded startups are back so low, but I also think we need to acknowledge the progress that we're making,
Yeah.
because if we don't focus on the progress, then we're not going to progress,
Absolutely.
right? So I think that's happening, and I do think there's a lot more that can happen.
Yeah.
So we do need to kind of propel that and encourage that.
Yeah.
But for that, I also want more women to feel empowered to get out there and build something and
And build
really,
something that's resourceful, and maybe less than 1% can move to less than 10, less than 20. But I really want to move that needle. Like, less than
we have
one is
to.
such a poor stat. I mean, it's worth calling out.
Yeah,
It's worth calling out. Less than one, like,
yeah,
it's negligible,
I know, I know.
so it's worth calling out. Why is it so less? We need to move the needle. We need to
Yeah,
have, I mean, if not more, at least equal, and we need to have the
it
more.
has to be
Yeah.
equal.
And I'm not just saying that we need to, the feminism and all that stuff. I'm not with that at all. It's just that more cerebral opportunities needs to be there,
Mm,
equal opportunities from, the idea perspective, from resource
mm,
perspective, from what you bring to the table. You should be given,
yeah,
the
but
equal opportunity.
feminism just means equality,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of times people misconstrue the word of
It's the
feminism.
word that we
But
have all different
But
definitions about.
feminism literally just means equal opportunity,
Yeah.
equal rights,
Exactly.
equality.
Exactly. And
Um,
what does that equal opportunity means? I mean, it is again very subjective. Everybody can come up, okay, equal opportunity for me just to be a CEO of a company, but can you be a CEO of a company again? And
mm,
equal opportunity means what? Maybe you can get $1 million or
mm,
$100 million or evaluation, but is it really worth it?
mm,
So again, it it pertains to what you bring to the table, and also it is subjective, each one of its own.
yeah,
So with that, I think it's a great way of segue to get into some fun conversations. We have had immense learning today in terms of what our perspective should be, what our attitude should be, where should be identifying our symptoms, listen to our bodies and identify the right resources, reach out to the health specialist and identify your issues, and maybe the specialist as well, to ensure that we can get cure, we can get our mental and physical health in the best optimal level. So we can actually optimal operate at the best optimal level. So we learned a lot from Karina today. Thank you so much for sharing your learning and your journey and your story with us. It's very inspiring. And I'm sure if even one of us, in the viewers is able to relate to what Karina has identified, has built, and has learned over her journey, I think the overall purpose of Fem Stories is definitely achieved in terms of creating that voice, in terms of sharing these impactful stories and paving the way for the budding entrepreneur. So thank you, Karina.
Thank you for
Before we
saying
leave
that.
you and before we end this episode, we have a very fun rapid fire where we actually jiggle up a little bit.
Oh, I love a rapid fire.
So, I mean, everybody loves, we all love it, right? So, I'm going to ask you very, like, just, drop of the hat kind of the questions, and I would really need you to answer like within a couple of seconds, not taking too much thought.
Sure.
All right. So thank you so much, Karina. We reach our final segment, which is a rapid fire. I know the Fem Stories episodes can get a little intense. I try to go a little deeper in terms of what the person has actually learned over the years, what story can be brought on the table. But we end with the fun stuff. So this is our rapid fire. We have few seconds to answer. So we
Awesome.
start now. So the book you're reading today, these days.
I am reading the story of John Lewis.
Nice. And tell us about in one line. What is it?
It's amazing. It's about the founder of John Lewis and how he started with a textile garment store and how he's built it into what it is today.
Nice. The role model, women.
My role model is my mom, Ziba Kohli. She is the strongest woman I know, and she has taught me a lot about
Yes.
entrepreneurship.
Oh, is she an entrepreneur herself?
Yes.
Wow. All right. So one place you would love to, you love hanging out in Mumbai, where she's from.
Oh, Um, a place that I love going to, if I get some time on a weekend, is the Crossroads bookstore in Bombay. The oldest and the first one is at Kemp's Corner, and they now have a very nice coffee shop inside, so I can just kind of get lost
So grab
and
a book
grab
and
a book and
coffee.
a coffee.
Hours.
Love
Awesome.
it.
Yes, I like reading as well.
Yeah.
Last movie. We're all about
Oh,
Bollywood in India, right? So last movie has to be in the rapid fire.
but
The one you liked.
the latest movie I
Yeah.
liked. Ooh. Honestly, I love going to watch a movie at the cinema, and I feel like we don't do that enough.
Anymore after COVID has changed a little bit.
Yeah,
But it kind of
but
evolved.
we're
Yeah.
picking it up
I've not
though.
gone to theaters for any years. I
Oh
don't really
wow.
watch Bollywood movies, but I know people around me love them. So would love to know which one you like last
The
watched.
last movie I watched was Top Gun
Nice.
Maverick, and I loved it. It was so good.
So we are all about weddings, and it's a wedding season, across the country. Which tell us a fun experience. I mean, it's so lively and such a important part of our culture. What is the last fun experience you want to share with us from the wedding? Friends,
Um,
family, whatever.
yeah, no, I have actually a lot of my best friends getting married,
Nice.
so it's
Yes,
it's
you're young,
really
right?
fun.
So it must be all in the order.
It's really fun within our friends. And I have to say, of course, I love the wedding, but a really fun part of that is also dance practice because
Yes.
it's a really intimate, fun way for
Yes.
friends to just
With the
catch up
choreographers. Yeah.
after a long work day. So
Yes.
that's been fun. Yeah.
Amazing. Yes, I think that's the best part. I think it's more fun than actually performing
Yeah.
because the performance is like you're a little bit nervous and it just
Yes.
happens in a minute, so whatever. But
Yes.
then the preparation is a fun
It's
part
so
because
much
it's so
fun.
much fun.
Yeah.
That's the memory you take for life. So
Absolutely.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Karina. This was amazing, amazing episode. Thanks for coming. I
Thank
mean,
you for
from Bombay
having
and
me.
having your, sharing your time, sharing your story, and having fun with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's
Absolutely.
great to meet you. Thanks.
Likewise.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again, and we'll be back with another episode. Thank you. So today was an amazing day, talking with Swarnima and Karina and just learning a little tad bit more about women's health overall. It was an educational experience for me as well in terms of, PCOS. We learned about women's health issues. We learned about the adoption. Swarnima has taken a brave decision to adopt the kids and the overall journey that she has founded and worked through it. It was amazing for me to learn and find and meet these women. I mean, I just count my blessings to be able to do this job and to be able to meet these women and to be able to learn their stories and share with you all. So for the next episodes, I will, get more interesting CEOs and founders and the trailblazers for Fam Stories to share their journey, to share their personal story with all of us. Thank you so much and keep watching Fam Stories. Thank you.